Christina Rimes, the CRS Coordinator for the City of Venice. And I do appreciate you being here because this shows our city that you are committed to actually being prepared this hurricane season. And after last season with Milton and Helene, it's so important that we prepare for this hurricane season. So one of the wonderful things about Venice that people love is our beaches. And we actually have a beach renourishment program that is done by the Army Corps of Engineers. And they come in and they will actually dredge beach sand from out in the Gulf and will bring it up on shore. And if you look on the top left, you can see 1994, the difference in where the shoreline was at and between 2004 and 2007. So this sand, the reason that it's eroded is from all of the storm surge, all of the storms that we get, all of the hurricanes that we get. And as we saw last year in Milton and Helene, sand goes wherever it's going to go. Unfortunately, that went into homes, that went into businesses. But you know, the one of the reasons we do the program is so that we actually have a buffer between the shoreline and where the houses are at. So that's really important. And on the bottom right, you can see where there's a red line that goes through the water on the left side in 2004. And then in 2007, that same red line actually goes through the sand. So that's how far out into the ocean that we have to replenish the sand to. And this project was done in 2015 to 2016. This is up just south of the South Jetty. And the Army Corps of Engineers expects that the next beach renourishment project will be done in 2026. If you're ever walking along the beach and you do see one of those pipes that are sticking out of the ground, those are actually part of our stormwater outfall system. And this is where all of the water, every inlet that you see in the city, every inlet, every curb, every gutter that you see in the city, all of those ultimately lead to the Gulf. So it is very, very important that you don't do any illicit discharges. It's important that you don't, water or wash your car where your car is in a place where the water is just going to go straight into the drain, because all of those toxins do add up. And, you know, you don't want to have that affect our beautiful Gulf. So if you do see any illicit discharges, you can actually call this number, 882-7413. And if you need to come and talk to me afterwards, I can give you that number. But if you see anybody doing an illicit discharge, be sure to call us, because that's something that we definitely do not want in our system. There are 4 different kinds of flooding in Venice. And the first type of flooding is going to be your coastal flooding. This is where you have high tides, king tides. Then you have storm surge, which the last statistic I read, that the storm surge for Helene, for Milton, was at 5 to 6 feet. So that's 5 to 6 feet above sea level. To put that into perspective, the average elevation of the ground, let's say on Tarpon Center, is about 5 to 6 feet. So that's why we saw water in those houses last year. So the storm surge is definitely a very scary aspect of the hurricane. It's one that you should be concerned about if you live along the coast. And another type of flooding is riverine flooding, but this is mostly from rainfall, and it's obviously out by the Mayaca River. But we do have some riverine flooding that could occur on Curry Creek or Hatchet Creek. So those are 2 areas of water that you want to watch out for. And then we have localized street flooding. So this is the corner of the Esplanade and Tarpon Center. And as you can see, the road is closed, and it was closed for quite a bit of time. We're actually still working on the Tarpon Center project right now, a seawall for the Tarpon Center project. So, you know, it just avoid going around these areas whenever there's road closed signs. You know, please do not go through them anyways unless you live back there and you need to get back there. Flood zone levels flood zones and evacuation level maps, they are different. The flood zone map is the one that's on the left, and the evacuation level map is the one that's on the right. So you can kind of notice the color scheme is a little different, and I did that intentionally so that you would remember the difference between flood zones and your evacuation levels. And you can actually visit venice.gov.com, and you can search flood zone map or evacuation level map to pull up either one of these. If you look at the evacuation level map, they're going to be levels A through E, with mobile homes being called at the same time as A. Mobile homes are special cases, and they are in a special area that they do call them the same time as A for everyone's safety, because it's not just the flood factor, there's also the wind factor that goes into evacuation levels. So the data and the modeling that we use looks not only at flood information, but it looks at wind information as well. So it's very important that you do heed those evacuation notices. This is the flood zone map, and this map shows the level of risk of flooding. So there could be a difference between what your evacuation level shows, because your evacuation level is showing that maybe you don't need to evacuate right away because you're in level C, but you are in flood zone AE, which is a high risk area. So there is still a risk that there could be flooding at your property. It's just not that you need to be evacuated. So the maps kind of, they don't necessarily always agree with each other, but if you have any questions on that, you can come and talk to myself, Kelsey, or Noah Taylor at the Sarasota County and City of Venice tables once we're done with the presentation. And you need to sign up for Alert Sarasota. This is our rapid notification system via text, and it will give you the up-to-date, up to the second updates on what's going on in the county as far as evacuation levels go. They do boil water notices. They let you know when power, has been starting to be restored to certain areas. They let you know when water has been restored. So it's really important that you get on alertsarasota.com, or I'm sorry, alertsarasotacounty.com, and sign up for that. It's a free service. It doesn't cost anything, and you just put in your address and your phone number and your email address, and you're good to go. You can actually even decide which type of alerts you want to get, whether you want to get alerts on man-made disasters, natural disasters, whatever the case may be. Another excellent resource for City of Venice residents is our Venice Facebook page. We have an excellent PIO officer that keeps this page up to date whenever hurricanes are going on, leading up to the hurricane, during the hurricane, after the hurricane. She is very excellent at keeping the public informed of what's going on. It's so important to protect yourself. Last year after Milton, I went out and I was taking pictures because I wanted to take some pictures of some flooding. And I saw people paddleboarding. And I was thinking, that is so unsafe. That is very, very unsafe, because you never know what is in the water. You never know if there's a down power line in the water, and that maybe that part of the water that you're going through happens to be electrified. You never know if there's going to be gators, snakes, other people's pets. It's really important to secure your pet after a storm, because pets are very sensitive to storms, and usually they're very high energy after a storm. And so you want to make sure that you have a pet plan and that you don't allow them to wander freely, because they could stumble across an alligator or something that's swimming through the street because the street is flooded. And it's very common to see things whenever there's flooding. It's very common to see things just floating down the road. So it's really important that you protect yourself, that you don't walk through those floodwaters, that you don't boat through those floodwaters, that you don't drive through those floodwaters. There's too much danger and it's not worth it. It is not worth the danger of losing your life over trying to drive or navigate through those floodwaters. It's also really important to protect your property, and purchasing flood insurance. That's the best way to protect your property. You can also do some flood mitigation measures. There are a number of different things you can do. You can Google flood mitigation measures for my home. Hurricane protection measures for my home. There are just a number of resources out there that you can utilize to think of different ways besides sandbags, because there are other alternatives to sandbags. Amazon has flood barriers that they sell. There's just a number of different things. But the biggest key is to purchase flood insurance. And flood insurance is available for single-family home policies up to $250,000 and up to $100,000 for contents insurance. And renters and condos insurance is also available. So don't feel that if you live in a condo, you're not able to get flood insurance. You are able to get flood insurance. And flood insurance is offered everywhere, any home. It doesn't matter. They do not turn people away, the National Flood Insurance Program. Homes that are in a high-risk area with a federally backed mortgage are required to have flood insurance. But even if you're not required, it's imperative that you have flood insurance. It's one of those things in life that we don't want to spend the money on it, but it's just peace of mind, because your peace of mind will come on that first day when the storm is about to hit, and you're sitting in your house with your family and everything has been locked down. All the windows are secure, all the doors are secure, and you're sitting there and you finally have some quiet time to think about all the things that I needed to get. And one less worry would be if you had flood insurance. So it's really important that you possess flood insurance, and you can actually go to floodsmart.gov and you can get a quote, and you can do it in under less than 10 minutes. And one of the great things about our city is that we live in a city that participates in the community rating system. The community rating system is basically a program that implements higher floodplain management standards. So where there is an AC unit that's on a house, because we participate in the CRS program, we would require that a new AC unit be elevated to meet the base flood elevation, which is part of your flood zone. So it means that it would be elevated off the ground, so that if there is 2 feet of flooding, your AC is 4 feet off the ground and your AC is not impacted, and you don't have to wait, months in the summertime with no AC. So in return for doing these higher standards, the City of Venice residents actually receive a 25% discount on their flood insurance. It is an automatic 25%, and that's a big savings, 25%. Flood insurance and homeowners insurance are not the same. They are not, flood is not covered under homeowners insurance policies. You want to make sure that you purchase a separate flood insurance policy. This means a different deductible as well. So whenever you're saving for deductibles, whenever you're putting away your hurricane funds, you want to make sure that you have enough to cover a deductible for your homeowners and a deductible for your flood insurance. And sometimes there's even a deductible for wind insurance. It just depends on how your agent wrote your policy. Homeowners insurance covers things such as a leaking roof, a burst pipe, and a bathtub overflowing. And though all of those things mean water in your house, they don't necessarily mean water that came from outside on the ground. So flood insurance is where that comes in, where it's water from outside on the ground that penetrates your house. It's crucial to be prepared. That's what today is all about. That's what we, as the city, we pride ourselves in educating our residents and doing this Hurricane Expo so that you guys can come here and you can learn from professionals how to prepare for hurricane season. It's, there's just something that needs to be said about preparing after last year with Helene and Milton. You want to make sure that you pack the essentials if you're evacuating, elevate your utilities like I mentioned before, build responsibly, create a family emergency plan and include that pet plan with it. Make sure to include that pet plan because you don't want to forget about your pets. And after the storm, you want to wait for the weather conditions to subside before you go outside. Even if you are hearing on the radio that it's clear, if you look outside your window and it's still raining and windy, I would wait. Just wait until you look out your window and it's all clear. And then you will know that it's time for you to be able to go outside. Steer clear of any damaged buildings. Keep your generators at least 20 feet away from your house whenever you're running them because we don't want anybody to get poisoning from the exhaust on the generators. And I know last year, whenever I was driving around after the storm, I heard generators going everywhere. So it is something that, people do. I'll tell you honestly, the best investment I have ever made in my life was a generator, hands down, a generator. So I always say that was my first big adult purchase because I bought a generator. So you also want to avoid standing water. Like I said, it can harbor wild animals. So I'd like to end with this quote: "It's better to have and not need than to need and not have."